Good morning. I'm very grateful to be here. I've been very excited about seeing all of you and feeling the presence of those that have been here and that must know in spirit that we're all celebrating and enjoying the accomplishments and the work that they have done, that you are doing, and that shall be done in the future. And as we share the story here, I'm sharing it so that you can have a feeling and an appreciation for the background and the history of how we are here 46 years after this started. And in telling you the story, I want you to be aware that while I was the minister for 38 years and the spiritual leader, the people that came here, that sat where you're sitting, did the work. They gave the money. They brought the cookies. They held the dream, and they manifested buildings and property and results, tangible earthly things. They brought it into manifestation. And they also brought into manifestation a depth of consciousness for themselves. They brought about healing. They brought about the resolving of things that needed to go away and the bringing forth of a new consciousness. They worked on their spiritual selves. They worked on our church plant. They worked on their lives. They worked on their community. They worked on their country. And they were loving, generous, aware, becoming individuals. And they made part of this happen. You are now, the ball is in your court, and you're making it happen also. What I would like for you to see this morning is that what individuals can do together, and you're the individuals that are doing this together now, what individuals do together makes a difference in the world, but it also makes a difference in the individual, him or herself, and also all the lives that theirs touch. And let's pray that this, in 46 years from now, will all be gone into a greater awareness. And let's know that those that have come to take our place, just as we're taking the place of those who we're celebrating part of today, that those that have come to take our place in 46 years from now will feel our energy and our love and devotion, celebrate our growth with us as we're celebrating the growth of our founding fathers and mothers, and then also make bigger, better plans for the future, as we will do in the years to come for this congregation and as the people before us did. So that's what this is all about. First of all, I need to give you a little bit of history. And I wrote all this down so I wouldn't leave anything out. About 1930, a Reverend Peck, a lovely woman who was ordained at Unity Village, Missouri, came and founded Unity in San Diego. They met at the San Diego Hotel in the Grand Ballroom on Broadway Street. That building is no longer there. And then that was about 1930. About 1946, Reverend Marie Fleming came to San Diego, and she took over Reverend Peck's position. Reverend Peck retired. Reverend Peck was a member of Gregory Peck, the movie star's family. That was a San Diego family. Reverend Fleming was a lovely woman, and she was very sincere and a beautiful spiritual leader. And she took the Unity Church of San Diego out of the San Diego Hotel into the Ivy Chapel, which is a building which still exists in downtown San Diego on 1st Street. And then the congregation grew, and then they moved to the corner of 1st and Thorn, where she became the minister. Then, when she was ready to retire and become the minister emeritus, Reverend Wendell Mixon came to San Diego, and he wanted the ministry all to himself, and so he kind of pushed her aside. And she found her way into a church on Marlborough Avenue that Reverend Robert Stevens was starting up. And she asked if she could be there and be a part of it and do some of the prayer work. And she lived in El Cajon. He said they would love to have her. And so, as a team, they ministered to individuals. This was all about 1960, 1961. Then, after graduating high school in Dallas, Texas in 1961, I joined the Navy and came to San Diego, where I was employed serving my country at the psychiatric ward, the locked ward at Balboa Hospital, the largest naval hospital in the world. And I was having a lot of trouble staying unbruised and unhurt because of the difficult time we had with people who thought if they acted real crazy, they could go home. In the meantime, I could get a medical discharge and be out of the Navy. In the meantime, there were some very severely mentally ill individuals that needed our care. And I liked caring for people and helping, but I also knew that I was a spotlight person, that I needed to be in the spotlight, and I was involved in some very minor community theater and stuff like that. But when the show was over with the community theater, everybody went home and that was it. But then I found my way to Marlborough Street, where I met Reverend Stevens and Reverend Fleming. And I realized that if I was going to be a spotlight person, and I was going to be helping people, it would have to last longer than when the curtain came down. So I decided then that I would be a minister. I wanted to be a unity minister, and I asked God for a sign. And it was Dr. Marie Fleming, who was a very lovely person. She was elegant and beautiful, and she was a big woman. And every Sunday she appeared in, everything was either aqua, the stockings, the shoes, the purse, the hat, the gloves, everything, or lavender or pink or fuchsia, whatever. She was always just to the nines. And she said one Sunday, after I had said, God, if this is for my highest good, send me a sign. And she said, I think you would make a lovely unity minister. That's when the gates opened up and the angels sang and the clouds parted. And I went, oh. So then I started being involved in the Unity Church in San Diego with Reverend Stevens and Reverend Fleming. And Reverend Fleming said, I have a prayer ministry in El Cajon. It meets at the Safari Park Mobile Lodge on Broadway. And they have a chapel there with little jukeboxes on the wall that play all religious selections and little pews. And if you would come, then you could help me take the offering and you could do a little prayer, and this could kind of get you introduced. So I did that. And then I went to, my time in the service ended, I went to college, and I went to Unity Village in the summer. And then when it was time to go to seminary, they told me that I wouldn't have to go the 24 months that are required, but because I had done all the work, taken every correspondence course I could, I really wanted this dream to come true, that I could come for only 8 months. So I went to seminary and was ordained by Lowell Fillmore, the son of Charles, and Fillmore, one of our co-founders. And then I came home to serve at the Unity Church under Reverend Stevens. I was going to be there, and I was privileged to get to be there. But during the time of being there, I came and helped Reverend Marie with the prayer ministry in El Cajon. I had a youth group, and that was my practice church because I had to get them to the meetings, whether I had to pick them up or just get them there on their own. Call them, write them, thank them, have a treat, a lesson, a spiritual lesson, and a game to play, and be able to minister to these 20-some high school kids that were just wonderful. It was just a magical time. I'm so grateful for that experience. Well, I came home and to San Diego, and I was Reverend Stevens and I would have dinner every Saturday evening. And I told him on one Saturday that I thought it was time that I spoke, since I had been there almost 6 months, and that for years I had been making the announcements, taking the offering, telling people to stand up and that they may be seated, and I wanted to speak. And Reverend Stevens was very nice and honest, and he said, well, I was the youngest ever ordained Unity minister, so I was 26 years old. And they really didn't know what to do with me, but they knew I was coming to be under the umbrella of the church in San Diego. So Reverend Stevens said, Arthur, you don't know enough to talk. And you have your youth group and you have your prayer ministry in El Cajon. You should just be happy, and you should just be excited that you are a part of something really wonderful. And it really, really was wonderful. And he said, and they wouldn't come to hear you because they come to hear me. And as I had some inflammatory things to say back, I know you can't imagine it, but he said, you better think about this because you're not practicing what you preach. And I said, of course not. I don't ever get to preach. That was Saturday night. On Saturday night, I went home and I thought, well, if that's true, and I just really valued everything about Reverend Stevens and everything that he said. I said, well, then what would I preach? And I thought one of the things would be to be grateful and thankful for it the way that it is. And then that will make it lucrative to become something better. So I gave thanks for my little apartment, my one-bedroom apartment on Highland Avenue in San Diego. And as I did, I realized I could wash a few dishes and tidy things up, vacuum and all this stuff. And as I put together some items that were just in the way, I remembered some cardboard boxes down in the laundry room. I got those and I put these things in them. And I thought way in the back of my little brain, I'm packing. And then that was Saturday night. Sunday morning, I went to church. I gave thanks that I could read the announcements and tell people to stand up and sit down and take the offering. And to apologize to Reverend Stevens for my rude behavior the night before, I promised to take him to lunch. Those days, everyone went to Mission Valley and the Hotel Circle, and the elegant thing to do was to have lunch at the Town and Country Hotel. So, but on our way, as I was shaking hands with everyone by his side at the door, someone said, there's a church for sale in El Cajon. Then we went to lunch. As we were enjoying lunch, some people came over very gushy and adoring, saying, oh, Reverend Stevens, you were such an inspiration this morning. Hello, Arthur. You were just so good. So they said also, there's a church for sale in El Cajon. So then on Monday, because Monday was prayer ministry day in El Cajon, I was conducting the prayer ministry in the chapel at the Safari Park Mobile Lodge. I always thought safari is so good. And while one of the ladies there said, there's a church for sale in El Cajon. And I said, okay, God, I'm getting the message. So I said, where is it? And they said, it's across the street from the library and the fire department. I said, everybody knows where the library is. They would all know where the church is. So I got in my car on Monday and drove to the church. And here's what I found. I parked, this is the corner of Highland and Prescott. And so I parked across the street and looked at this church that was for sale. There was a chapel and an assembly building. And so I looked in all the windows, and then I called Reverend Stevens and asked him if he would like to come and look at a property that I had just discovered in El Cajon. He came and we looked in the windows. We found a stucco building and a stucco two-story assembly building. We could see through the windows, and it had been owned by the Foursquare Gospel Church, and they had outgrown their buildings after doing a little addition to the chapel, and then they had moved to their new location on Bradley in El Cajon. So Reverend Stevens thought I think silently this would be a great way to get rid of me. And he said he saw it as a wonderful outreach possibility for Christ Church Unity, the Unity Church now in San Diego, to expand and support expansion of the Unity movement and the Unity teachings and another Unity church. So then on Tuesday, we went inside the buildings with a realtor whose name is Fred Shipp. And Fred had the lock key box business and could get in and out of the building. So we went and we saw the whole building. And as we saw it, we could just see the potential in that little chapel and the assembly building that was right about here across the lot. And so as we looked at all these possibilities, and I did a lot of praying, then on Wednesday, after sleeping on it and praying about it, Reverend Stevens said, yes, I think what we could do is we could give $2,000 down for this $35,000 piece of property. And if they take that offer, then it is meant to be, because it was such a low offer. And it had been vacant for about 5 years. So with that, we made the offer on Thursday. And on Thursday afternoon, they called and said, the people at the Foursquare Gospel Church World Headquarters in Los Angeles, California, said, we have looked at it and we would be delighted to accept your offer. You may have the property. Send us through a bank draft the $2,000. And this was all done over the phone. There were no fax machines. There was no internet. There was no way we could do it except just pick up the phone. So we did that. And then when that was finished, our time, then that was Thursday. And Friday morning, we said, did you get the check through the bank, overnight express? And they said, yes, we have the check. The deal is done. And then we said, well, how long is the escrow? And they said, there is no escrow since it's church to church, and we have great faith in each other, and we're all working for the same Heavenly Father. So there'll be no escrow. You may move in immediately. So I took those boxes that I had been packing 5 days before, when I was so miserable and unhappy. But I gave thanks, and then I moved those boxes in on Friday and slept on the floor in my bedroll that I had for Youth of Unity rallies and retreats. And it all started. The next Sunday, Reverend Stevens said, this is Arthur's last Sunday with us, because next Sunday he's going to be starting a new ministry that we're going to be the sponsors of in El Cajon, California. And anyone that wants to attend that church is more than welcome to. And we are paying $2,000, and he's going to be cleaning it all this next week. So anybody that wants to come and clean and help, get ready. So not only did I move out of my apartment and into the 4-bedroom minister's manse that was above the fellowship hall and 2 Sunday school rooms and 2 church offices, but I had phones installed and the power turned on, and we started cleaning. And the ladies from the prayer ministry that met at the safari park for years and years had held this vision and there was this a miracle for them. They were just so ecstatic. I mean, they were happier than I was, because this was just like answered prayer. So they came and cleaned. And during the process, a man whose name was Daggett, and he and his wife came out because they were retired, and they wanted to see what was going on. And he said this place, the interior of the chapel and of the assembly building and the minister's manse, this needs to be painted. And he got a crew of people to paint it, and he paid for this, so that when we moved in the next Sunday, it was spotless, clean, beautiful, ready to go. And he had the funds and he was too old to clean and do anything, but he had the money. And because everyone else was so eager, happy, and energetic about the project, he came in to do what he could do because they were all doing what they could do, and that was the magic started. So then we had an opening day. I think it was September the 23rd in 1969. Then in 1972, because the church was bland and stucco on the outside, I painted it myself with what we called at the time, an architect friend of mine had figured out how to do it, and it was called super graphics. And it was just the letters Christ, church, and then unity. The U was wrapped around the corner, unity, across the building, and they were 24 feet high, and each letter was about this wide, and it went over the windows and everything, just real solid. And the colors were, I had a lavender colored cross with purple trim over the front door of the chapel, and then over the entrance to the fellowship hall. And the city came and said, and it was really colorful with aqua, and blue, and then purple, and there was some pink and yellow, and it was really colorful and very professionally done. And the city said, your sign is perfect, it looks really good, but there's a sign ordinance, and you can't have that sign. And I said, it's not a sign. And they said, what is it? And I said, it's art. Public art. Public art. It's a new thing. You're going to hear about it. And they said, you can leave it up for 1 year. So then I went to Mr. Ferris, who was the architect of the San Diego church, and I knew him and his work. And he was also instrumental in moving some Victorian houses onto property in Old Town that is now called Heritage Park. He was the president of the San Diego Historical Society. And so I asked him for his help, and he said for a budget that would be about $1,000, we could put a board and batten front on the church and little blue shutters, and there was a bell tower here, and just make it look real Victorian and quaint. And so we did that, and you can't believe how fast we raised the money. People would come to church and they'd say, well, we do want people to know we're here, and these colors are rather psychedelic, and they're very large. They're as big as the building, and and they went to. Some of them went to Reverend Stevens, and he said, look, you've got a young minister, he's full of ideas, and you wanted him, and you've got him. So when I unveiled the plans for the Victorian Chapel redo, you can't believe how fast we raised those funds. And then we put it all together with people from church helping hammer and nail all of this in. And one of the things about this building is it's on Highland Avenue, and you can see around the edge how the street is lower than the property, because this was a high point in the El Cajon Valley. And if you can imagine, without buildings and just a few trees and residences sprinkled around, how cute this church was on its little hillside, and founded by the lovely Foursquare Gospel individuals. And at one time, Amy Semple McPherson, their spiritual leader, who did fabulous things in the name of the Foursquare Gospel Church, spoke here, and there were so many people that came that they stood around in the outside, and just like Jesus at the Sermon on the Mount, people would tell people who couldn't hear her speak, they didn't have PA systems then, what she had been saying. So this one day I found that being a minister, the payment was $400 a month. and my salary was $100 a month. But every once in a while, I could get a wedding or a memorial service. And I put myself in line. I went to every mortuary and told them I was available, and I got a lot of opportunities to help people because I was non-denominational, and there were unchurched people. Then I also went to a lot of wedding chapels. There was one, Los Novios, that was in La Mesa. It's now a colonic clinic, but and so I did all these weddings, and then I realized one day, I have a chapel. I could be doing weddings. So I started doing weddings, and that all was just unfolded beautifully. And in the history of serving here, I did more than 4,000 weddings. And in business ethics, they say if you can get someone to get in your building, come through the door, even if they don't buy anything, they will be back because they know where you are. They've parked their car, they've found the place, they've gone inside. So if that is true and valuable, that means that during those times of 4,000 weddings, which includes 8,000 mothers of brides and grooms, 4,000 photographers, only 500 bridezillas, and a florist and all of that. I was sweeping rice one day. So and a man slammed a door, and there was a little house here. It was about 3 bedrooms, and then a house, a building here. This was a house. Had been a doctor's office, and it had a waiting room, a doctor's office, a small little storage room, and a half bath. The man slammed the door and said, "I have had it with this property. I'm going to sell it." And I was sweeping rice. I looked, and he said, "It's so hard to rent. People don't pay their rent. They leave it in shambles. I have had it." I said, "How much do you think you'd want for it?" He said, around $25,000 or $30,000. And he said, "I'll take $1,000 down." Well, I had $1,000, only $1,000. And I said, and the church didn't. We were making our mortgage payment and putting a little aside and making my salary. And my salary was the best I'd ever had because I had a car, I didn't have rent, I didn't have a phone bill, everything was taken care of. So I was set. But I did have $1,000, and I then said to God, if this is meant to be and this works out, I'll use my $1,000 as the down payment.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.